Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We often have robust debate in this House, but there are very few days that you can actually say are a day of shame for the New Zealand Parliament. But this, unfortunately, is one of those days. Because the National Party knows that they do not have a mandate to sell state assets. They know that despite the fact that we're going to save some money in terms of debt servicing, we're going to be losing more money in terms of the revenue flow from those companies. We're going to be $100 million worse off. They know that. They know that overwhelmingly New Zealanders do not want them to do this, but they don't care. And they don't care because the people that they really represent in this Parliament, the people that they truly trot down to Wellington every week to represent, do support asset sales because they are the 1% who are going to benefit from the hocking off of the assets that the rest of us own. And there are very few opportunities to see that glimpse of truth on who really the National Party represents, and really do we get it, but we've got it on this legislation. The 1%. That's who they come down here to represent. That's who's going to benefit, and it's the rest of us who are going to pay for it. Mr. Speaker, they like to say that this is a great opportunity for mum and dad investors. Well, mum and dad investors already own these companies. And if there was ever a more truer definition of Tory charity, it's selling people something they already own and then expecting them to be grateful for it. Mum and dads already own these assets, and most mum and dads I know are more concerned about how they're going to pay the power bill than trying to buy the power company. That's how out of touch the National Party are. So the quality of the government arguments and the speakers we've had so far speaks volumes. We had Todd McClay, Chair of the Finance and Expenditure Select Committee, who oversaw a shoddy process where he reported back 5 weeks early, rammed it through so that they didn't have the public scrutiny they needed. They often say that Finance and Expenditure Chair is an audition for Cabinet. Well, I can say based on his performance, he can look forward to a long political lifetime of patsy questions, Mr. McClay, a long lifetime. Because I remember when I sat on the Emissions Trading Scheme Select Committee and the National Party went apoplectic about how rushed that process was. Do you know how long that process took? 58 hours of submissions we heard and 16 hours of deliberation. Well, under Mr. McClay's watch, the committee departmental report was written before the submitters had even submitted, and less than an hour of deliberation. Less than an hour. That's a double standard, and it shows just how scared the National Party are about the political impact of this bill. Then we had Paul Goldsmith, who lectured us on the virtues of market capitalism and told us that only private companies can ever run anything efficiently. Apparently the global financial crisis was just something that happened to other people in Mr. Goldsmith's world, but he says that we have to do this because that's the only way we're going to get productivity out of these companies. But National's king hit argument is that they're doing it because Labor did it a quarter of a century ago. Well, it was wrong then, and it's wrong now. And Labor paid politically and electorally for those decisions, and the country, more importantly, paid economically for those decisions to privatise in the 80s and 90s. And that's why the last Labor government sold no assets. In fact, we had to purchase some of them back because they were being stripped and because they were at risk of falling over. And I wonder if Mr. Goldsmith thinks that Air New Zealand was a shining model of market capitalism when it nearly got bankrupted and the government had to bail it out. Well, Kiwis know that we're all going to be poorer as a result of these sales. And they know that power prices are going to have to go up when the motive becomes profit maximisation rather than any kind of aspect of social responsibility. Because the state-owned companies under their legislation currently have to show restraint around pricing and have social responsibility. That's why, on average, they charge less than the privately run companies. Now, the government's response to this is to say that, no, people are going on the internet to swap power companies, and that shows the market is working. No, it doesn't. It shows that people are desperate. It shows that they cannot pay their power bills already. They are looking for any way to reduce that burden, and that's why New Zealanders oppose these asset sales, because power prices are going to go up. New Zealand is unique in the world in not having any protections for domestic power consumers to ensure that they can pay the power bills. That's why, since the global financial crisis hit, it's been New Zealand where power prices have continued to increase, where everywhere else in the world, as those protections have kicked in, power prices have gone down. There is no protection for domestic power consumers in New Zealand. Power prices will go up. The government does not have a mandate to sell these assets. They should admit that. And where is is Peter Dunn, the man whose single vote is going to force this through.
Time's expired. To your right level.